Ultraman Omega episode 17 has me believing in the show again. If you've been with me on this journey through Omega, it's been an up and down thing for me. But we had a compelling mystery. We had Sayuki figuring out some of what's going on with Ayumu and Kosei and Soroto. And we had something that was really, I don't know if it was moving. I was going to say moving to me. I don't know if it's moving or not. But something I thought was really special was, the mystery of the other Soroto comes up as well, which is interesting. We need to talk about that at some point. And this wasn't even the central point. It was just like the strongest thing for me is that Sayuki says that it's important. She's older and she's wiser and she's a very smart person. Not that intelligence is everything and not that I believe in technocrats or whatever, but just she's a very accomplished person. She's very smart and we get to see that she's very wise, and that's shown to us. It's not told to us. I don't believe that because I've seen her credentials. I believe that because I've seen the kind of person she is, the way she works with people, and the kind of tough choices that she's made. Which is really impressive because this person has had minimal screen time and no like sad backstory kind of thing like Kosei had in episode 2 or so. Maybe it was 3 when they meet Ayumu. But the way that they've used her character, I feel like I have a lot to say about her. I feel like I've learned a lot about her, and I feel like I have a good impression, a good understanding of who she is as a character and like where she's coming from. So that's a feat, I think. Anyway, she says that it's important. Well, once she knows, and they know that she knows, that Kosei is the one who wields Rekiness and the others, Trigoron and Polignus. He's excited and he's like, okay, great. Well, anytime you need me to deal with a kaiju, I will. And she says, no, not so fast. Slow your roll, little guy. I don't know why I'm being mean to Kosei. She says that's not a good idea. We can't just rely on these kaiju that you happen to have somehow that fell from the sky. Why? Because we have the NDF, and while they did mess up this episode, which is another super interesting thing, the NDF tried to do something. They used this kaiju thing that they found up in like the permafrost. Does Japan have permafrost? They're talking about the North Pole. They have some sort of exploration thing up there, and they found I don't know. Anyway, I need to get something really big. They found this kaiju tooth. It happened to have the slime mold stuff on it, and it was reactivated, and it took over the kaiju that they killed with the weapon, and they accidentally started a new problem. They started up this old organism from millions of years ago that was a very hardy life form who gave them a lot of trouble, and if they didn't have villageness or whatever, they would have had a really, really hard time killing this thing and stopping it, and we don't know how large it could have grown. It had died in a previous ice age. Multiples of them had died, so it's obvious that it's not like gonna necessarily take, well, I don't know that it's obvious or not that it won't take over the world, but there's a big risk that it has. There's a lot of harm it can do to everybody, especially because it was in Japan, not up in the North Pole where you presume that's where it was from, or that's where it should live. Like, that's its natural environment. And invasive species usually wreak havoc on environments that they invade. That's why they're called invasive species. The point is, though, that the young and brash Kosei, who's excited to have his secret revealed and be it looked at as a positive thing and not something he feels in danger of and he feels safe with her, is saying, okay, I'm going to do this then. And she says no, because humanity, despite the fact that the NDF screwed up, made the problem worse, and we had to deal with it for them to help them, they still need to take their lumps and make mistakes and make mistakes and figure it out and learn how to properly combat and counter kaiju, because kaiju are a reality now that we are having to deal with. And if we don't do that, if we just abdicate that responsibility, that's not good. We don't know that Ultraman will always be here. We don't know that these kaiju will always be reliable for you. She's not making accusations, she's just saying the truth. It's foolish to put your eggs in one basket. It's foolish to rely on one thing. You should have redundancy, you should have backups. You need to have a system in place to ensure that the things you care about, the things that you value, are protected, taken care of, grown, strengthened, nourished, and it's beautiful. And it's like, it's not coming from a place of being preachy, and it's not coming from a place of trying to teach a lesson. I'm reading between the lines to pull all these things out and tease them out and talk about them because they are important, and that's why I'm bothering telling you so. This episode and this conversation, this perspective from Sayuki, is actually really delivering on the promise of the show in a really robust, meaningful, powerful way, I would say. And it's really interesting because while that is happening, it's also, the premise of the show is kind of being contradicted, because Omega, Sorito, tells Sayuki that he knows, or senses, or feels that this kaiju was running amok millions of years ago. And she says, how do you know? Like, were you there? And he says, well, of course I wasn't there. What are you talking about, lady? But he could have been. He probably was. He says he's seen files about it, is what he says. And she says, files from where? And he says, I don't know. So that's interesting. So perhaps kaiju aren't new to Earth, and maybe that's part of the show. Maybe they've been dormant for a very, very long time, and there's no real evidence of them. And I'd be okay with that being the truth, that they didn't know kaiju were a real entity, just like they didn't know this slime mold thing that could puppet a kaiju, or anything, a human too, I imagine, was a real thing until they discovered that it was. And oh, it turns out to be an ancient thing that we had lost track of, lost sight of, whatever. That makes sense. That's logical. That totally works. It doesn't violate the worldview of the show. It doesn't violate the world building that they established for us, the lore, whatever, which is good. Last point I want to talk about. It also demonstrates that there's evidence pointing towards Sorito being part of something bigger, maybe a, Ultraman Defense Force type thing. And he knew things. He had information. He had files on different kaiju. So that's something that's being suggested to us as being true by what he said. And he has this memory of these things happening, and he has this other vision of this other version of himself, who I think, again, is the part of himself that really remembers all these things, and who's had the agency stripped from him because of whatever happened to him to land him on Earth. And I'm really excited to see where they go with that. I'm glad that they're keeping that mystery alive, and again, this is the way the show should have been running all along. Seeding things throughout, having interesting, novel kaiju for them to battle, seeing them deal with them in interesting, tricky ways. It's very cool, it's very exciting, it's very enjoyable, and there's a lot of entertainment value you get out of that, but also a lot of, meaning that can be extracted from these things or implied from these things by the audience. Like, I've said all these great things that I think the show is saying, even though maybe it's not really that they were trying to say that. It's just, those are things that I read into it because they provided me fertile soil in the body of the episode for those ideas to take root, so to speak. So anyway, I really liked it. I thought it was a fantastic episode. Let me know what you thought about Snow Blossoms, episode 17 of Omega. Leave a comment for me, and check the pinned comment where you can find a link to my inspector's notes where I dive deeper into this episode, and you can find links to my coverage of other stuff along there as well. Till next time, folks, this is MJ with Henshin Inspection and Going Ultra, signing out.